Is here with you this morning. Man, it feels good to be back in person with you guys. We're still missing one. He'll be back later this week, but I know he'll have a lot to share with us as far as his big trip over to Europe goes. Jake Lyman will be back with us in just a few more days. But fellas, I'm so happy because of one thing.
What's that?
Our text line is back, baby.
Yes, it is.
Our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Our text line, our phone line has been there. It's been great to get, those comments on the YouTube chat or wherever that may be. But fellas, it feels so good to have this back. It's a new look too, which I'm really happy with.
Yeah, it's more sleek, more minimalistic, easier to read. I like it.
Yeah. Well, guys, how we doing?
Phenomenal. I can't complain. Obviously had some family come in last night and going to do a little family gathering today for a celebration.
That's right, for an engagement, right?
Yeah, my cousin got engaged a few weeks
awesome.
back. So they're in town, going to do some celebration stuff. And so, yeah, real pumped for them. Congratulations to them both. And had some friends in town, obviously, from up north. Shout out my buddy Pete.
Yeah.
And I got to see some other friends along the way, so which is good. But
that's awesome.
There was a lot of sports going on last night, especially in the MLB that we'll get into as one of my headlines. But
yeah.
I'm pumped about it.
Speaking of MLB, at 9:30, we'll have Chase Headley on the show, by the way. So the speaker helped us out with that one. Connor, how you doing this morning?
Doing well, man. What's the counter at here, Nick Frazier? 3 days?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
3 days. Yeah. Oh, for me, it's let's see, Saturday. So 2 days really for me.
Yeah. So leave your milk and cookies out for Kirk Herbstreit so you can.
Nah, I don't think Kirk would stop by my house. My door's gonna be
David
locked.
Pollock might. I don't think he's doing anything else right now.
That's all right. I'll take Lee Corso any day of the week.
Oh yeah,
who wouldn't?
I mean, I'll take him.
I love Lee.
Well, Lee Corso's a legend.
I feel like just sitting down and having a cup of coffee with him, you just understand a little bit. But that's what I like.
I don't think you'd understand what he's saying. But
yeah, I would.
No, well, if he comes in with a mascot head,
I was gonna say,
definitely
what's he wearing? Is he wearing the Brutus the Buckeye with his little wave he does?
What's his most famous one?
Oh boy.
I would say maybe the Wisconsin one.
I would say
maybe.
so. He did Georgia's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he did.
The Oregon Duck.
Yeah.
He called the Georgia Bulldog ugly. I remember that.
He's had over 500 headgear choices, right?
Yeah.
Close to that, 300, something like that. That's ridiculous. That's good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
And he's what, like 80? He's kicking it.
He's getting up there into the 90s almost. Yeah. Like 88, I think. But hey,
let's see. He is 88 years old, by the way.
Look at me. If it was celebrity birthdays, I'm on it. I don't get it. Yesterday, he hopped on for celebrity birthdays on the Chase and Big Joe show. And I was just hitting him on the money.
Awful.
I didn't know how I was doing. I was like, all right.
Ian earlier this week gave you all a run for your money.
Yeah.
He almost broke the record.
Ian did really good is what I heard. That's crazy. Wow. But yeah, Connor, you got anything for us, man?
Yeah, man.
What do you mean?
Anything great? Like you get a headline
this week? Anything coming
headline?
Out? Yeah.
Well, first nutrition.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What you got for it? Nutrition.
Fruit bottom.
Oh,
nothing crazy.
Okay.
Cherry fruit bottom yogurt.
Cherry.
Yeah.
Is it all right?
It's good. So like the way the fruit bottoms work, they're on the bottom. So it's vanilla yogurt on the top and fruit on the bottom. You mix.
Fruit bottom. That sounds about the name. Okay.
But as far as my headline, I'm gonna go over to the NBA Summer League. Last night, we saw an SEC rematch of sorts.
We did.
Reed Shepherd, my boy, taking on Dalton Connect. And I would say they were pretty even. They looked pretty good. I think Dalton had 25 and Reed had 23. But there was a moment that made me smile. Reed Shepherd drive into the lane, shakes and bakes a little, gets Dalton stumbling, drives to the rim and one. I was like, and don't you forget.
Dalton Connect's nickname for some reason, I've been hearing on the radio and also just elsewhere.
Connect 4.
Connect 4.
That's right. Yeah, he was that back at Knoxville too.
Really? I didn't know that was a nickname for him. Yep. That's a great nickname.
Well, it works better now because his number is literally 4.
Yeah.
So, and his number at Tennessee was 3, I think. So
that doesn't really work. So Connect 3 now. Connect 4.
Connect 4.
So Frazier, do you got anything for us for your headline?
I do. Last night in Baltimore, things got heated once again. Obviously, back in, I think, New York, back in the Bronx, they had this big ordeal with the pitcher hitting Gunnar Henderson. And then I think Corbin Burns hit Aaron Judge in return. And that was at a series a few weeks back. Now, last night, I don't know what transpired this to happen, but it was a headshot, a legit pitch to the head against Baltimore. And I was like, whoa, okay, so the Yankees are out for blood. And then that's when the manager of the Baltimore Orioles kind of left the bench. Both the benches cleared.
He lost it.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible, but terrible for the situation. But also, that's kind of what baseball needs, a solid rivalry. And I think that's kind of starting to kindle back up because the Yankees right now are a solid ball club. They're not bottom of the barrel, which is nice to see. And as for the Orioles, they were bad for so long, and now look at them. They have a lot of youth prospects that are now up in the big leagues that are producing at a high rate. And so this just brings great baseball. And I love the back and forth banter. I love the back and forth, just true organic rivalry that you don't see that often in the MLB. As for example, like me being a Cardinals fan along with Connor over here, the Cubs and Cardinals rivalry goes back a long
Yes,
ways.
it does.
But the thing is, like, all these guys are all professionals. You don't see that grit and just back and forth anymore. So it's good to see that with Baltimore and New York. Obviously, would love to see that with a little bit more Boston and New York. But, it's just the modern day baseball we see. But it's good to see with Baltimore and New York.
Sticking in baseball, how about Paul Skeens and the historical mark that he's been making? He was drafted first overall last July, made his MLB debut back in May. He's had 11 starts. He has a 6-0 record, 1.90 ERA. And by the way, he's going to be the NL's starter. I don't know if you guys caught the video of him being on the show. I believe it was with Dan Patrick yesterday. And the coach came on from the Diamondbacks. I forgot his name.
Yes.
But he came on and surprised him and said, hey, you're going to be the starter at the All-Star game. So very, very cool for him. And also he's got, a dime piece of a girlfriend too. So that's awesome.
I'll say this. When is the last time a rookie pitcher started in the All-Star game?
I say this to a lot of people, so I'm going to say it again. The term generational is thrown out very, very loosely these days. I think it applies to Paul Skeens.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I think it does.
But to my question, though, if we could guess at it, when is the last time a rookie pitcher has pitched at the All-Star game? And for those listening, you can text in on the text line, 615-737-1025.
Was it Waino?
It was not Waino. It was actually somebody that played for the Dodgers back in a certain time.
Kershaw?
No. A little more back. It was before we were all born, actually.
I was going to say, I don't know baseball history.
Sure. Don't be looking it up.
I already did. So, well, no, it's the first answer is Paul Skeens.
Well, is it Koufax?
But it's not him.
No, it was a pitcher from the Dodgers. I think his name was, it starts with an H, and the last name I think is Sumo.
Huh.
But what year? I'm asking what year.
Oh, so you do know the year at least?
Yes, I know the year.
Is it 95?
Bingo. I mean, it probably showed up.
No. I didn't. I only had Paul Skeens on here.
Yeah. But it's 95. And the funny thing is, the last time that happened was in Texas. And sure enough, the All-Star game is in Texas.
Okay. So, that's very cool. But our question of the day, by the way, and I don't know where you guys are going to go back with this, but what is your favorite childhood sports memory from playing a sport? So it could be, hey, Frazier playing Little League or something, or, it could be me back in the day playing hockey, but is there a memory that comes to mind with you guys? It could be backyard football too, but is there something that stands out?
Absolutely. Connor, would you like to go first?
I will.
Please.
Okay. I will go to Little League. I want to say 10. This is the championship game. Guy on first. One out. We need 3 to win, but we got to get 2 more. Guy on first has a massive lead. Massive. So the guy at the plate pops it up. I'm on second base. I played second base pretty much my whole life until I stopped playing baseball. He pops it up right to second base. I catch it. The guy has such a big lead. Tag him out, double play, champions. That was my proudest sports moment. And the whole infield came and huddled around me. We were high. We were 10. It's a big deal.
Right. Absolutely.
But I think I ended up with the game ball that day, which was, to me, in the championship game, that's like the finals MVP or something. World Series MVP.
Right.
So that is my moment. That's my proudest moment in sports, and I'll take that to the grave. I still have the trophy. Call me weird for living off my old success.
Still
but
looks at it
Not at
for
all.
yeah.
it
You
still
look
looks
at
good
it.
on the shelf.
Yeah, you got some inspiration just to look
Oh,
over
yeah.
at every now and then. So, Frazier, is there anything that stands out? I
I
could go if
do.
I need to, but
I'm going to the diamond for this one.
okay.
I have two things that kind of stick out. It's same season, but I had 3 home runs in my like first year in like junior high baseball, like 8th grade, I think, or whatever. And I hit like 3 home runs in the first season. And my first home run ever was a walk-off homer. And of course, my mom and dad were in Starkville, Mississippi with my brother, visiting Mississippi State for the first time. And obviously, so my dad was one of the coaches at the time and like wasn't there. So like only my grandparents were there, which was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool, though.
And because they're like the secondary people that kind of raised me for the most part. My parents weren't around, and because they were working a lot. But anyways, so they were there. All my friends, I played with a bunch of boys I went to school with, all on the same team. And bottom of like 5th or 6th inning, because you don't play all 9 back in the day.
Yeah,
hit a walk off over the scoreboard in left field, and then later in that season, I hit an it wasn't a walk-off. It was just a regular home run. It was an absolute moonshot into, like, the solar system. It was unbelievable. I hit it way left field. I was a pull hitter. Hit it way left field, and there was, like, another field, like, probably about 50, 60 yards, like, over the fence.
And it went in there.
And went in there, and my dad actually knew the other guy on the other field. He goes, "Hey, man, was that your son that hit that ball?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "That thing went, like, 340." I was like, okay, it's a 13-year-old. I feel pretty confident.
That is pretty cool.
Plot
You know, it
twist, your
rolls.
bat was corked.
Oh, hey, I was using a high school bat. There was no regulation. I was using a drop 3. I was like one of the only kids using a drop 3.
Do you have a kerosene heater in the dugout or something?
No, I did use pine tar. I love using pine tar with my gloves, and it gave me a little extra grip. So like, see, back in the day, Little League, they'd always use like diamonds in the dugout, whatever, and you had to stick your foot real deep in the ground. I was never a big like stick your foot in the ground type guy. I need a little flat base.
Yeah,
so I always like not choked up on the bat, but I always scooted up further, like towards the mound in the box because there was more of a flat surface.
And I always had to choke up because my arms were so long. So I had to choke up halfway to the bat just to get contact on it.
Yeah, but that was my 2 little favorite memories there.
That's awesome.
Keezer?
Mine really quick for you guys is when I was, and I know I wasn't younger with this one, but my senior year of high school, and childhood, but this is a lot later. I've never had a moment like this. So we were in the championship game my senior year, coming off of my ACL surgery. This was a big year for us as a team, especially for me. And we were playing Innsworth, and we beat Innsworth. But before the game was over, we had a brawl. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, both teams left the benches.
Oh my!
There was a huge open ice hit, and they started throwing punches on our guy. Now, our guy, I forgot his name. It's been so long ago, was getting clobbered. Like, he was a bigger guy. And once we got over there, he had some support so he could start chucking knucks. But I mean, we got over there and I tried to facilitate like keeping guys away from the pile, but I did push some kid and he fell into the wall and hurt his arm.
Hey, good for him.
The bruiser.
You know what that means? Keezer. No longer the reporter. He's the bruiser.
That's a long time ago.
That means don't
bruiser.
mess with Nick Keezer.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
Keezer
I
the
protected
bruiser.
my team.
Or the bruiser reporter. How about that?
We got to tell
Oh,
Robbie and Joe about this. That way,
Yeah.
if they ever give you anything, be like, hey,
Meet me in the hallway.
you mind your own business.
Yeah. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. So if you have a favorite sports memory that you had playing, text us at 615-737-1025. Our text line is back up, or call us. Let us know what you've got going on, and we will answer your phone call. But fellas, Frazier and I were on the air with Connor Newt when this happened just the other day. Jamal Adams agreed to a 1-year contract with the Two-Tone Blues. So how does that contract turn out? And I know how we already feel as a show, but how concerned should we be as Titans, observers, fans, however you want to put it, about him going into next season? But also, what is the ceiling with Jamal Adams as well? Could be a lofty goal to see him play in every single game, but we'll talk more about that coming up next year on 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
I saw several teams being speculated.
Right.
How did this happen?
Well, obviously, I kind of wanted to keep it quiet. Just the whole process, obviously, it's been a lot. Just the past 2 years, after tearing my quad, mentally and physically going through that was a lot. And I just kind of wanted to step away and just kind of handle my business, grind, and keep my head down. And obviously, look for the right fit for me. And obviously, just knowing that Denard Wilson, was coming over to the Titans and it was going to be the DC, it was a no-brainer for me.
That was Jamal Adams on the official Titans podcast after he agreed to his new one-year deal with the Two-Tone Blue. The safety is coming to Nashville. Music City has a very interesting signing that is coming at you a few weeks before training camp. 4's Company here with you on a Saturday morning. Nick Keyser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt behind the glass with you this morning, breaking down Jamal Adams. And we were on the air just the other day, filling in for Big Joe and Chase McCabe when this news broke. And man, Jeffrey Simmons, I don't know if you guys caught this. Later on, he had kind of talked about how so many people were down on this deal. And I don't feel part of the scuttlebutt around that necessarily. We were right there when it kind of did happen. But, there is reason to be concerned with this deal, Frazier.
Absolutely. I mean, I've spoke at it ad nauseum already this past week, but the injuries concern me a lot. But looking at the amount of money he's given us, $1.125 million on a one-year deal. So obviously it's a proven.
Is that what the
yes.
Okay. I did not know.
Ari Merov on Twitter reported that. So I saw it yesterday. Obviously it's a prove it type deal for sure. I really want to know what the incentives are in the contract. Would love to see, if there's, a game incentive, like if you hit a certain amount of games. I was talking to somebody the other day, I forget who it was. I was like, you can't have 10 games out of Jamal Adams. You need at least 12. I say 13 is like right where the comfort zone of where you really need them the most. But like you can't have 10 or less games. That's like the bare minimum base.
That does make me feel a lot better though.
About
the money? The money.
Oh yeah.
I said Thursday it should not be more than $2 million
right
on a one-year deal, and it's obviously less. That's without incentives. Obviously, we don't know that yet, but I still don't like it personally. I don't think it's a great pickup. I think there were better options, but the money makes me feel a lot better because they still have cap space.
Right.
They didn't spend. They got him for a bag of chips essentially.
Yeah. Well,
true.
That is true. And if you missed what Frazier said, it's a $1.125 million guaranteed contract. So it is a low risk, high reward type of deal. And, we'll hear more from Jamal Adams in a clip next hour when we get to 10 o'clock. But I do think it's interesting that he wants to gamble on himself, and he kind of has a perfect storm with the fact that he is in a new defense with, Denard Wilson. And so how does that ultimately affect the way that he could possibly play this year? And so the middle is still a concern for me back on defense, because if he's coming in and, if we do get the 10 games out of him, but what is he doing in those 10 games? How productive could he truly be? And so the way I look at it is, if you've got, Jamal Adams in your defense, you're thinking, okay, we know he's injury riddled. And by the way, you laid it over perfectly the other day. You want to walk us back through how many injuries he's had? I don't know if you had no offhand, but Frazier
memorized it by now.
Yeah, you went through it really well.
He has 7 injuries, and one of them is a concussion. So if you want to count that on the right side of his body, you can. But I'm saying 6 of those injuries were on. Seeing it on
the same side. Yeah,
they're on the same side of his body, on the right side. So the only one on the left side of his body, I believe, was a fractured finger or a dislocated finger. So that. Although, he even talked about in that clip there, his groin.
Yeah.
That a little bit of an issue for me if you're a safety. It just kind of limits you on what you can do on the defensive side of the ball. But I think that's another thing that you put into the equation when you talk about L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie and maybe Roger McCreary as well. Like, if you add those guys into the equation, they're a little bit more healthier, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
If the knees thing is not an issue with L'Jarius Sneed, as people have spoke about in weeks and months past, then I think you shouldn't be too concerned about it. But initially my overreaction definitely happened this past week when I heard about the Jamal Adams thing on the air. I was freaking out about it, like the sky was falling. Somebody DM'd me the other day on Twitter. It's like, man, the sky is falling. I'm like, yeah, you could say it that way too, man. But I was a little frustrated about it because I didn't know the money. Like
My
Connor.
reaction is verbatim.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Really?
Yeah. Until he proves me otherwise in December. Well,
Yeah.
I'll even give him earlier. Give him till mid-October.
No, I think you got to have some action from him in September.
You do, yeah.
You can't be waiting too long. That's
No.
just. I understand it's a prove it deal, $1.125 million. Understanding if it's a prove it deal, prove something to me in the first month of the season.
Yes, I completely agree with you. He's an LSU alum. He is coming up on turning 29 years old, by the way. So, he's not. They did talk about on that podcast how you are older, but he said he loves the idea that he can help out these other young bucks on the team too. And so that is another way I look at it too. And I think I mentioned this the other day after the news broke, but if anything happens, you do have him here for a year to at least be around this team. And so how much could he change the dynamic? And I saw some clips. I did some research on how vocal he really is.
Right.
It's unbelievable how loud he can get and how clearly he can get his point across. It's just a matter of, will he fit the system? Will he fit the culture really well or not? So I think that's the ceiling with him, is he's playing well and he gets to the locker room, because, Arden Key was a pretty vocal guy, still will be a really vocal guy.
Yeah.
So how does Jamal add to that dynamic here in Nashville?
And let me just, when things don't get twisted at all, about my reaction earlier this week, I'm still very concerned about Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Don't let that get twisted with me talking, I guess, more generously in this setting right now. I'm not kind of throwing a filibuster out here, but no, yeah, I'm still concerned about it. Your point there, Keezer, about being a vocalized leader in the locker room. Hopefully that's what he is, because the Titans really want to really bring up that precedent of culture, creating a good culture. I mean, Connor, would you agree that maybe a guy like Jamal Adams is not really your true culture guy? Because you mentioned the other day, a diva.
Yeah, diva. Yeah, I would agree. But here's where he's going to be the most vocal and where you're going to see it. Slight tidbit. Titans have joint practices this training camp with the Seahawks.
That's right. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how he looks. We'll see if playing against his old team, even in a practice setting, brings out the best in him.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I didn't realize about Jamal was that back in 2020, he had actually set the record for sacks by a safety all time in one season at 9.5.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. I mean, you do understand that there's the talent there, but he's not the same guy whatsoever. And then also, too, that's the last time he was an all-pro. That's the last time that he was basically an all-star, where you look at that. So, he's not the same guy whatsoever. Yeah, that 3-time Pro Bowler is nice to have on your resume, but when you've played 10 games in the last 2 seasons, fellas, you do have to be concerned with the availability. How does he look at training camp? And that's a great point, Newt. How does he look against the Seahawks at joint practices? Because preseason, we don't, clamor about, hey, we really want to watch this.
Yeah.
I think he will be a guy that I want to keep track of at training camp in terms of what does he bring to the team and where is he at in terms of speed? Because, when guys lose their step, they have to be smarter. They have to realize where the ball could go and what lane he needs to put himself in. So how well does he do that? That's my main question. That could be part of his ceiling as well. Can he do that effectively?
And also limits you to certain coverages too. Like, I mean, if, like you mentioned your point there about how they can move on the field and whatnot, maybe it puts them in a certain position on the field where they have to line up differently than before and earlier in their careers. But, Joe made a comment the other day, Big Joe, at this, stage in a career, who would you rather have, Kevin Byard or Jamal Adams? And I was like, well, he said Kevin Byard, and I agreed with him. But, like, that's money aside. With this money thing as well for Jamal Adams, this could be a good thing for the Titans, hopefully. But it's just like a wait and see type thing.
Do you put him at free safety and let Hooker run the strong safety, or do you flip it?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Hooker.
That's what I
safety.
think I would do.
Yeah.
Because, like, you don't know what Jamal Adams is going to bring. And plus, he could be a depth guy. I mean, with a $1.125 million deal, that just seems like, it's a prove it deal. But at the same time, you're going to take your opportunities with just an extra bit of passion, I guess you could say.
Right.
Because
you have depth in your youth in the safety.
Because,
Elijah Molden, granted, he's not great, but he has an advantage over Jamal Adams because he's young.
Right.
Absolutely.
But like you got to remember, like when you bring in veteran guys like Jamal Adams, and you already have a guy like Amani Hooker who's been in the secondary for a while, and you bring in a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, those guys, because the Titans want to bring in that dog mentality and that culture.
Exactly.
Well, if they can build the dog mentality and culture with those veterans, again, kind of the Preds point, they're bringing all these veterans to help the youth grow and understand. Like I've been saying with the Milwaukee Admirals, keep your strong core in Milwaukee, let them keep developing, and bring them up when they're ready with the Preds.
Right.
Same with the Titans for the most part. I mean, you're not bringing them up from the minors, but you're getting them more play time after they learn a little bit. And that's what I hope for Traylon Burks on the offensive side of the ball. I don't mean to switch gears here, but I'm just hoping for that for Traylon Burks because that wide receiver core is just loaded.
Yeah, absolutely. 615-737-1025. That's our call and text line this morning, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Before the break, Cameron says that, dude, Adams is a sub-package linebacker. He sucks. He's also malcontent. He destroys culture. Well, look, I understand that point, Cameron, but also, too, it's a fresh start for a guy. I do give him a little bit benefit of the doubt here for sure. But, look, we will just continue to take your thoughts here this morning on 4's Company. But coming up next year, we'll segue away from football and catch up with Chase Headley, former professional baseball player. We do that coming up next year on 4's Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in the 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Look, fellas, we got ourselves a fun guest on the line here with us this Saturday morning. Chase Headley, former MLB player, current coach over at GCA. Chase, welcome into the program. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start things off here. I know that you played all the way up until 2018. Notice you also spent some time down there in the minors, grinding it away as well. Just kind of walk through what that was like to ultimately work your way all the way through to get to the majors, just what that was like for you back in the day.
Yeah. It's, the minor leagues certainly aren't glamorous. And coming from playing at University of Tennessee, playing at UT, you're treated pretty well over there. And then you get drafted and you go to your first assignment and you realize that you're taking a huge step back in terms of accommodations and travel, things like that. It's just, it is a grind in the minor league. So fortunately didn't have to spend a ton of time comparatively in the minor leagues. I think probably 2.5 years or so, and was able to find my way to San Diego.
Now, Chase, do you recall your first call up in San Diego by chance your rookie year?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Take us a little bit down memory lane with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was, it was unique for me because generally when you get called up, you've been in major league camp before, you've been around a lot of the guys. But for me, I was coming off, I was the year before I was in high single A. I did not get an invite to major league camp the following year. So I was in double A, and it was, I was off to a really good start in June. And, I remember getting called into the office before the game, and it was so far off of my radar, that it was just a huge surprise. And, they called the GM answered and, just congratulated me on having a great start and to keep it up. And then said also, hey, do you have any interest in playing third base at Wrigley Field tomorrow? And you just kind of freeze and just all the emotions, all of the, the memories, the hard work, the struggles, the good times, the bad times, all the people that have, been an influence in your life, from your parents to your coaches to your siblings, all those things. It's just a surreal moment, and to get called up to play at Wrigley Field for your first is pretty special. Mine was especially unique. I was supposed to fly out the night before. I was in San Antonio, Texas. There was some weather in San Antonio, so my first flight to Dallas got delayed by about 3 hours, I think. And then by the time I got to Dallas, my flight to Chicago was canceled. So I ended up staying in a hotel at the airport and getting up at 5:30, getting on the airplane, and then was in the lineup in Chicago at 1 o'clock without any of my gear. So it was a lot, but it was a special day for me.
Do you have enough time to just call your family members like, hey, I got to reserve a few tickets here? How many people are we expecting? Like, what was the ticket situation like over at Wrigley for you in your opening day?
Yeah, you get 6 tickets every game. You have access to 6 tickets, so you take care of your family first, and that was kind of it. But I was, I was extremely fortunate. I had my family there, but also, I don't know, probably another 15 to 20 of my friends in college and from just across the country from high school, all ended up finding ways to get out there. So we had a pretty good crew, over 20 kids or 20 people there. So just, again, to share it with all those people is really special.
We're talking to former MLB player Chase Headley. Chase, what a lot of people don't know is, of course, you were a player, but now you're over assistant coaching at Grace Christian Academy. What was that transition like for you, coming from a player mindset to more of a coaching role?
Yeah, it's different. I think the toughest thing being a coach is you really have a very limited impact, on each and every game. Obviously there's, some strategic things that you can do, but I mean, that's about the extent of it. So, being able to, as a player, you can go out there and somewhat control the circumstances and you can impact the game. Whereas a coach, you want to win just as much as you want to win when you're a player, but you don't have the direct impact on the game. So, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for me because I'm extremely competitive. You're dealing with a different skill set in the high school. Obviously, we're fortunate over at Grace. We've had some really good players that have come through in the last 5 or 6. So it's a lot of fun to work with those guys. But it's just a different mentality. You have some kids that are really motivated and want to play college baseball or professional baseball, and then you have some kids that are just they just want to be a part of their high school team, which is, both scenarios are acceptable and are good. But you just have to learn how to kind of, deal with expectations and work with the kids where they're at.
Of course, I have to ask you this. Of course, you being a former Tennessee Volunteer, what is it like seeing them this year win the big one compared to where you were all those years ago, seeing the program kind of transform right before your eyes?
Yeah, oh, it's been incredible. What they've been able to accomplish over the last 5 or 6 years has been nothing short of spectacular. Tony's just really transformed the program and turned it into one of the premier, if not the premier program in the country. So it's really special to watch. You see, you follow from afar, and you bleed orange. So to see Tennessee finally get one was pretty special, and it was actually really special for us as well. I was able to take my 2 older boys, and we drove out for the championship series, and we're at all 3 games. So to see it in person was something that I'll never forget.
Chase, obviously you are a Gold Glove winner as well. Kind of walk me through just what was it like to get that phone call, but also the amount of pride that you take in your career to be as good as you wanted to be, and then you get that award. Just walk me through what that was like to be awarded that in your career.
Yeah, it was. It's really special. I mean, anytime you win an award at any level, it's special. But when you start talking about winning a Gold Glove in the major league level, it's as much as anything, I would say that I was humbled just to be honored amongst all the other great players that are out there, and to have a year where you're selected as the best defender at your position. It takes you back. I guess when you're in the situation, you don't think about it nearly as much as you do now when you're away from it, and you look at, you watch the game from afar and you see how many great players there are. When you're kind of in the thick of it, you're keeping your head down and grinding and keep going forward, because that, man, it's a difficult place to play and a difficult place to stay. So, my focus was always just to try to continue to improve. But, now that you're finished and you look back, it's a memory that's really special to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Chase, got one last quick thought here for you, because your career started with the Padres. You ended up going over and playing for the Yankees, but then got traded back to the Padres. Just what was it like to kind of have a full circle moment for you as you rounded out your time as a pro?
Yeah, it was super unique. I had a great stint in San Diego. It's where I kind of cut my teeth in major leagues and had incredible relationships and incredible people that were over there. But we didn't win a whole lot when I was there. So, to get traded to New York, was overwhelming. In the middle of the season, you get plugged into a playoff contender, and you're living in Manhattan, which is about as far from San Diego, obviously geographically, but as far as the pressure, the environment, it's a complete different feel. So getting traded over there, and then re-signing with them the following year, and my last game was in 2017 in New York against the Houston Astros. That was the trash can scandal. So we were a game away from the World Series, game 7 of the ALCS, the AL Championship Series, and we lost the Astros, and they went on to win the World Series that year. So getting the phone call that following December that I was being traded back to San Diego, it was a shock. There was some disappointment at first, not that it was to San Diego, but being a game away from the World Series and hoping that you're going to get another chance, especially at that point in my career. I knew that I was kind of winding down. So you go from one game away from the World Series to back on a team that's really rebuilding, was tough. But, after you settle in and you kind of have time to process it, you can appreciate that you get to go back to where it all started and, be a little bit different role. I was going back there to try to help mentor some of the kids that, they were bringing up, because it wasn't a time that they were, really, really trying to win a bunch of games. They were more trying to develop their players and build a winning culture from within. So, once I kind of wrapped my head around that and understood it, I tried to embrace it and went back and did the best I could with it.
Chase, it's the All-Star game this week, starting early next week. Are there any guys out in the league right now that you are excited by watching, or that just remind you of yourself as a player?
Oh, I don't know about that. All the guys that are playing in the All-Star game are better than I was. But, no, I mean, the game is it just keeps getting better. I'm amazed at, you just look at the average velocities and all these things that just keep trending up. And you look back when you play, which, doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But I remember in 2007 when I made my debut, I think there were two players in the entire major leagues that were touching 100 miles an hour. and that was Jonathan Broxton and Joel Zamaya. And now you look, and there's 5, 6, 7 guys on every team. You have starters, who are throwing 100 miles an hour for 6 and 7 innings. It's just amazing to watch where the game has gone. I think, like everybody else, watching Paul Skeens be able to do what he's done, just in such a quick trip to the major leagues and getting the chance to start the All-Star game. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Chase, you had managers back in your day when playing by the names of Bud Black and Joe Girardi. Any of those guys kind of influence you when you're now a coach over at GCA? Is that any of those, I guess, ideologies and coaching strategies implement into your coaching styles in today's game?
Yeah, I think you take bits and pieces from everybody that not just the managers, but coaches as well. I mean, Dave Roberts was part of our staff in San Diego. Is just an incredible human being, and Bud Black being my first manager, I think the biggest thing I took from him was just the consistency, how he showed up every day, whether things were going good or bad. He was the same guy. He wasn't relying on how you were playing, on how he was going to treat you. He was just, the same, whether things were going great or going bad. So that's something that I've tried to incorporate somewhat, probably not as effective as he was at it, but, Joe, the work ethic that Joe had, just from preparation standpoint, but also just how he took care of himself. He was always in the weight room and always doing those things. And I think you just really respect that as a player, somebody that's, willing to kind of grind with you. So, those are two of the things, but I was fortunate just to have, some incredible coaches around me. And, hopefully I've been able to implement a little bit of what they instilled in me.
Chase Headley has been our guest here on 4's Company here on 102.5 The Game. Chase, thank you so much for hopping on here with us this early morning, and best of luck this coming season for you guys.
Well, appreciate you having me on, and enjoyed it, and maybe we'll do it again down the road.
Absolutely. Chase Headley, man, that was awesome. But fellas,
love that.
Coming up next year, we've got Newt's Notes. Connor's going to have to let it rip here for the next 15 minutes or so. So without any further delay, we'll be back with that here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in the 4's company right here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And without any hesitation, one thing that music means every Saturday at 9:45, it's time for Newt's Notes. Connor, take it away, my friend.
Come on, speaker.
Oh, let me talk to you.
Talk to us.
Okay, so I wanted to touch on this earlier in the week, but we didn't quite get the chance. I want to take it back to the Big 12 media days. There's a certain quarterback that said a certain thing that I'll just let you take a listen. This is Shedeur Sanders earlier this week at Big 12 media days, and I'll just let you listen. I got a few problems with this one.
In terms of him operating with a certain obligation, does that sort of flow over to you as his son and being in the spotlight, as you just answered, that it's a different level in how you feel you have to perform? Do you have an obligation to perform at a different level?
It's been that since day one. I remember first media day when I was in HBCU, I said, well, we won't lose a game. I'm undefeated in the SWAC, so I already know what the expectation comes with. I know we're everybody's Super Bowl, so I'm really just I always stay level-headed, stay grounded, because I would never want to be that guy, look back, and not being able to take advantage of the moment that we have right now.
Okay, couple things there. We'll start with the big one. We're everyone's Super Bowl. If you're everyone's Super Bowl, you're the Dallas Cowboys, buddy. I mean, last year, Colorado finished 4-8, dead last in the Pac-12, which is no longer existent. So
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Pac-12. But the main one, actually, that's not the main one that gets me going. The main one that gets me going is I'm undefeated in the SWAC.
That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make sense.
I was thinking the same
You're
thing.
in the Power 4 now, buddy. No one cares about the SWAC. We don't care if you're undefeated at Jacksonville State. I mean, I'm just speechless right now because the level of ego and like father, like son.
Yeah.
Dion is the same way. And Dion apparently right now is more concerned about his son and Travis Hunter's EA Sports ratings than actually winning games. He came out on actually at Big 12 media days and he was like, well, that's not fair. Why are you going to tie them with some other guy? They're the best in the nation. I was like, why don't you focus on winning actual football games here? I just have I just have problems with this.
We do too. I mean, look, at least it's not a coach. You know, we could talk about Mike Gundy probably in just a little bit, but that was wild.
That's a good one too.
That was wild too. But this takes more precedent because you've got obviously the headlines around this team, but also really, guys, it's just the personalities. It's just who they've been and who they're related to. None of this would have really mattered had it had been another player-coach duo or family, probably. They make it so much bigger than it really should be. I find it intriguing that they are so transparent the way that they are because you can tell most of the time this is for a reaction, which I get it. You know, you're going to be relevant somehow, some way. But then throwing in what you did in the SWAC when you first got there to be undefeated, it's like, all right, brother, like this doesn't matter. Like it's cool. Like that's one achievement in a league that nobody paid any attention to until you, your dad, and your brother got there.
It just shows that they're in the spotlight now.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. The media is pushing this out. We're putting a 4-8 team in the spotlight.
Right.
Dan Lanning said it best last year when Oregon played Colorado. You know, I've seen the videos. Colorado, you're too little. You're trash. Dan Lanning dropped one of my favorite coaching quotes of all time. He said, they're playing for clicks. We're playing for wins. And what happened? They went out and stomped them out.
And they still got clicks.
I mean, I went undefeated in second grade basketball. Does that make me cool? I mean, Big 12 is eventful.
Were you everybody's Super Bowl or everybody's NBA final?
No.
Not
I
back
wouldn't
in the
go
day?
out and say that. I mean, I will be on July 19th. I'll be everyone's Super Bowl. But it's been a weird week in the Big 12 between this and Mike Gundy saying, he's just a kid. I've done it 1,000 times about a DUI.
Underage DUI.
4 to 5 beers. Yeah.
Just what's going on?
I don't know. And he was letting it rip. And I don't know if that is permissible. Like, think about if you're the AD of even both schools. It's like, why are you guys so dumb. Like, just talking about them both, it's like, you got to have some control. Like, this is ridiculous.
Just sends a bad message.
Yeah,
it was
does.
fun at first. I mean, the first 2-3 weeks, Colorado was winning. Deion had this swagger. I think he went on game day, and it was fun. And then they started losing, and he still does it. Yeah, well, we're still the best team in the Pac-12. There's no one going to stop us. Shador's a Heisman winning, and he's still doing it now.
He is.
You know, he's a top 3 pick. He's the best quarterback in the nation.
Right.
Which we don't know yet.
We don't know
obviously,
yet. But yeah, that
I don't
is
see it.
interesting. Yeah. Now, we had Charles Robinson on Robbie and Rex Road, and the guys asked Charles about that. Man, if I had known you were going to talk about this, I would have pulled up that clip for you. But, you know, they did ask about, you know, what that could look like next spring in the draft. You know, what do NFL teams think about a guy like Shador? And so right now it's kind of in the middle. And he even went on to kind of talk about how some teams kind of get the vibe he's like a Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Trubisky.
Yeah, I'm a little stuffed
He's a
up.
little stuffed up.
But yeah, it is interesting that was brought up. I don't know where he's going to go in the draft. I could really care less where he goes in the draft. I mean, Carson Beck's going to be more of a story than he is this year, probably. So I'm intrigued to see how much more publicity Colorado gets, because at this point, in my mind, they don't deserve attention. They really don't.
Interesting. I don't know. Like, my thing is if they go 9-3 with this expanded college football playoff, is that enough for them to be in that 12?
I know.
They're getting.
You think they're getting in?
It's a money thing.
You think they fringe at 8-4?
8-4, I don't think so.
You think there's going to be too many
9-3
teams at
is the
8-4?
borderline.
But they didn't get much better, guys. They don't have hardly anybody on that team.
No, they didn't. That's
No.
why I don't think we have to worry about this, because I don't think they win more than 5 games. But
Probably not. Yeah, no,
Interesting.
I don't see them being much improved. I really don't.
I mean, they have electric players. Travis Hunter's electric. Let's not lie to ourselves.
Sure.
He's electric.
One player, though.
One player, and he plays both sides of the ball. How much is that going to factor into him later down the season? I mean, last year he got hurt against Colorado State, I believe.
Yeah.
Dirty hit.
Dirty
but
hit, though. Yeah,
Still, both sides of the ball, that doesn't happen.
sure. It is interesting to see, but regardless, the Sanders family has always been interesting just to keep track of ever since they got to college. The SWAC was entertaining. I thought it was a lot more fun to follow them around when they were in the SWAC, because it was like, give me my theme music.
Yeah.
And then they also were doing these little videos and posting them. And
They
it's
made
like-
Because no one cared. They
Yeah.
weren't Power 5. So who cares?
right, exactly.
They
So,
made a good brand. Excuse me. They made a good brand of themselves.
I think
mean,
so.
To where they're at now, it makes sense. But I'm with Connor on this.
yeah.
It's just, it drives me crazy that there are more deserving teams out there, and yet
There
this
are.
is who we're covering.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this is the SEC homer in me, but I want to see Georgia. I want to see Alabama, LSU.
Yeah.
Heck, I want to see Tennessee covered
Yeah.
more than these guys, because they're not going to be relevant.
I
by the end of
think
the
Just
season.
wait.
Yeah.
SEC Media Days is on the horizon.
Yeah,
It is.
next
We're going to
week.
get there.
Next week.
Also, I'm going to say it because people will just think I'm crazy, but SEC, best football on planet Earth. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
You can say the Big 10's better, the Big 12's better, whatever. Nah, SEC runs king.
Yeah. Well, we will find out what that looks like next season. But hey, tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Iowa Cubs pregame at 6:20 with the first pitch at 6:35 with coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, Cottle Vet Clinic, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. So, guys, coming up next, we're going to get back into the conversation about Jamal Adams. What does that look like for the Titans this year? We already talked about what his ceiling might be, but also how many question marks are there on the Titans defense as well? We'll dial it back a little bit and focus on some positives with him coming up this season, but we'll do that coming up next year on 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Welcome back to 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nick Frazier here alongside Justin McBride. the coach of the Nashville Stampede. You know, the season's right around the corner, on the horizon. You guys kick things off in Oklahoma at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. I'm sure the rest of the roster is excited to get things going.
Yeah, man, everybody's excited. You know, it's the start of a new season, and exciting to see how your team's going to stack up. I mean, you can practice, but until you actually get into a competitive format, it's hard to know what you really got.
Along with those lines, you know, looking at the roster, you have two of your riders from last season who were in the top 10, Alan D'Souza and Caden Loud. You know, one's from Brazil, the other one's from Texas. Give us a little background from both of those and the excitement going into this season.
Yeah, so both of those guys are really excited to have both of those guys returning. And talk about Alan, the guy from Brazil. He's, you know, right around 30 years old now. He's a real veteran and somebody that can turn in a lot of scores. You look at Caden Loud, he's 19 years old and is a really, really exciting kid to watch. He can turn in scores and he can turn in big scores. So one really young, one got a little age on him, and both of them were really expecting a lot of production out of each one of them, and it'll come in different ways.
I mean, you also cannot forget about Silvano Alves, who's been up there in the world rankings as well in his time. I know, obviously, 36 years old, but at the same time, he's got to have some sort of influence of a teacher's aspect to the rest of the roster going into the season.
Big time. Silvano is the only four-time world champion in PBR history. He won 3 individual titles and then won a team title with us. So he is literally won more than anybody else ever has in the PBR. So to have him to help mold and shape the young guys is really an advantage and an asset. But then when the veterans too, they really respect him and listen to him. So yeah, he's a huge asset for us.
Is there anybody on the roster that you might want to keep your eye on for fans out there for the Nashville Stampede?
Yep, absolutely. So we've got a guy that a lot of fans will know of, but they haven't seen him in a long time. His name's Jess Lockwood. He was the youngest world champion in PBR history, the youngest 2-time PBR world champion in PBR history. And then he had some injuries in the last couple of years, has kind of fallen off the radar. He's back healthy, and we're going to see where he's at in Oklahoma City. But he would definitely be a guy to watch for.
All righty. Well, Justin, thanks for joining. Obviously, the PBR season will get underway this Friday, July 12th at Oklahoma City. Then the PBR comes to Nashville later on in the season for Nashville Stampede Days at Bridgestone Arena, August the 16th through the 18th. You can purchase your tickets at PBR.com or at Ticketmaster.com to get your tickets. Justin, thanks again for joining, and we'll talk next week, and best of luck this weekend.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nick. Appreciate talking to you.
Hour number 2 this Saturday morning. Nick Keyser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt here with you on 4's Company. Guys, that was fun. Last hour talking with Chase Headley, and then also talking a little bit more about the insane point of view of Colorado. But now we switch gears this hour back over to the Jamal Adams signing. He signed a 1-year deal with the Two-Tone Blue just the other day. We were on the air, and we continue to react to that signing here this morning. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com this morning, 615-737-1025. Send us your thoughts there. Our text line is back up. And fellas, without any further ado, let's get back into the Jamal Adams conversation. We had a texter last hour that we didn't get to that talked about how the Titans are basically the football version of the Expendables this year. So there's one perspective. But look, we have a veteran on the scene here in the Music City in Jamal Adams. He's played 10 games in the last 2 seasons. He's been riddled with injuries. Frazier has talked about his injuries to a T. He has been injured on all sides of his right side of his body. And so how does he do this year? It's been a fresh start for him. But back on the Official Titans podcast, Mike Keith was interviewing him around the time that they signed him. And so I found that conversation really intriguing. But to kind of set the table for our conversation here to kick off our second hour this Saturday morning, Adams really reflected on how much of an opportunity this is for him, but also how does he feel to this point and how different does his body feel? Here's what he had to say about how different this is going to look for him moving forward.
How different are you than the guy that worked with Denard in New York?
Totally different. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm older now. A lot of things back in the day that I thought was cool is not cool anymore, or whatever the case may be. It's just the growth of life, right? Just going through trials and tribulations. But obviously, just a smarter football player, and obviously seeing 2 different schemes and going through different coaching staffs, just learning different ball and different angles of how everybody coaches in different ways. Not everybody coaches, the exact way, or they have their scheme or whatever it might be. But Denard has always stayed the same. His scheme has always been to fit the players, and that's what makes him special.
Once again, that was Jamal Adams on the Official Titans podcast. Fellas, your first thoughts based on that conversation, that clip there, because I find that intriguing that he wanted to find a staff and a team that fit him well. He'd also have been kind of rumored to go to the Steelers as well, some other teams that needed a safety. But overall, do you guys think this is the right idea for him to maybe have a resurgent season?
I mean, yeah, he's with the right coach, Denard Wilson. I mean, when you want to, I guess, prove yourself, you want to prove it with familiarity. And Denard Wilson definitely brings that for him. I kind of was a little eyebrow raising a little bit about his comments about, he said something about being cool.
Yeah.
Well,
that and like being older too. Yeah.
Okay. I just kind of threw me on for a whirl.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. But I think this could be a solid fit for him. I like to the fact of trying to resurge your career. Yeah, do it with familiarity.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have for you.
And I don't want to, completely call him a narcissist, but I do find it interesting that most of that interview, and I get it, it's not completely, positive toxicity from that conversation, but the Titans definitely wanted to showcase the best sides of him there in that podcast. It was a great podcast. It was a great, short little show with him for sure. I got to learn more about him and his mentality moving forward. But you're right. I found it interesting that he talked more about himself and what he has to offer personally than he does on the football field. So,
yeah, and I also think it's a little bit of an insecurity breach for him due to the fact that, you haven't been playing at your highest level in the last couple of years.
Exactly.
You kind of have to expose yourself a little bit. You kind of got to be a little bit airy of yourself to kind of just, get people on your side for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at on that.
That's kind of what the OTP is, though. Like
it is.
It's a podcast literally produced and owned by the team. So they're going to push a little more towards the positive side. But I agree with Frazier. It was kind of, look at me, I'm here. This is going to be great for you guys. And
exactly.
la, 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 and we're like, okay, then show us.
Yeah.
Right?
So it is interesting. I'm going to run through this again because this list is telling of what this defense is going to look like. Here are the new pieces. Obviously, Denard is the new DC. He and Jamal are very aware of one another's philosophies after being back there in New York with the Jets. But on defense, you got L'Jarius Sneed, Chidobe Awuzie, and then you got Kenneth Murray and Sebastian Joseph Day. I think he's just going by Sebastian Day, by the way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of correct myself there because I do like to get those names right. And then also you got, guys that I think could possibly contribute in Sweat, and then also Cedric Gray as well. So, but I think in terms of positivity here, let's kind of focus more on this because that's where I wanted to go with this conversation. I think one thing that stands out to me about Jamal, and I talked about this already, is the way that he carries himself and how positive he could have an impact on this roster, especially with the younger players. How well can he be there for them? How much has he changed away from the game? Because he's had a lot of time to kind of reflect and change mentally. So is he prepared to do that? Is he going to be a veteran in the locker room that meshes well with the culture? Because clearly he's asked for a trade. things didn't work out from him in both cities that he's been to at some point in time because the Seahawks cut him. But, I think the Titans could possibly have a win-win here. I mean, absolutely, because it's a guy that, he can be a name in the backfield where if he even is a glimpse of himself, teams might think twice about throwing it down the middle when playing the Titans this season.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's just the linebacker thing at this point. Like, you got to worry about the linebackers. You're going to have what the guy out of North Carolina, they're going to have him as the green dot is what people
Cedric Gray.
Cedric Gray. Yep.
Man, I mean, you really hope these veterans kind of lead the pack for the most part.
I think secondary might be the only defensive group I'm not worried about.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, edge rushing, concerned. The defensive front, very concerned, aside from Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah. I don't trust a linebacker group who is headlined by Dr. Gibby, as they call him.
Exactly.
Dr. Gibby.
Joe Roxroad really likes him. He had a story on him last year at training camp. So
wow.
Maybe we'll see if Jack Gibbons can kind of step it up this year. But, I would feel better about leaning on Cedric Gray if he is ready for it.
Right.
But you've got to think this is the year that we'll see I don't think it's going to be too experimental, but they're going to have to know their assets really well. And so obviously that's what teams are doing. They have to feel good about who they're starting. But I think at strong safety, I like that dynamic of Amani and Jamal. I mean, I really do. And so that could be, like I just said, teams might think twice about throwing it down the middle if those two step it up this year. Literally. I mean, it could be a really fun season if those two are in lockstep with that defensive game plan. And how much can Denard ultimately shift their focus to be aggressive? Because TD has said it. Other reporters that cover the Titans have said it, guys. They look pretty damn aggressive on defense this year.
Yeah, and you make a good point about being aggressive. I just like looking at Jamal Adams' numbers when he was with Denard Wilson. Obviously, his sack numbers were obviously up there. They were high, 6.5, 9.5. I think 3.5 one season. I think that was without Denard Wilson.
Yeah.
But that just shows that Denard Wilson likes to bring the house a little bit, likes to blitz a lot. And, you draft a few guys like Tavondre Sweat and Cedric Gray, I believe, right? That's the kid's name. Yeah, out of North Carolina. Just those are some guys that like to be aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. So maybe hopefully that doesn't come back and bite them in the foot because you bring the house too much. What happens? This is a passing league. You don't want to be beat over the top.
Yeah, exactly. And guys, one thing to keep in context too, and I don't think it matters that much, but Jamal's not had a sack since the year that he had 9.5.
Yeah, but I mean, just also he hadn't been healthy.
Yeah,
and that's the
exactly.
unfortunate thing about it. So.
Right.
I will say this from a positive standpoint of this signing. I like it from the standpoint that Amani Hooker is your strong safety now.
Yes.
They tried him at free safety last year when, obviously Byard is gone. They bring in Terrell Edmonds to play the strong safety. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I've always thought that Amani Hooker is more of a complement to your free safety. It all depends on how does your free safety play and is he available?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of going back here as well, and I totally forgot about this when the signing got announced. It is important to keep in context that, the defense is familiar. Chidobe is really familiar with his new head coach. And then also you've got Arden Key and Jamal, who were teammates at one point. So there is that to kind of go off of, how well can some of this dynamic of familiarity with former teams where these guys were on different teams before coming to Nashville, how much can that play a role into how these teams are going to look this year against the Titans defense? And hey, they very well could be the expendables of the NFL. That's okay. But it's about, can they be versatile enough to make teams think twice when their game plan is rocking and rolling? So that's definitely a good thought. I think it's good to leave it there, fellas, for the terms of positivity. But coming up next year on 4's Company, we're going to talk about where does Adams fit in long-term on this roster, but also what does this say about him not knowing his role? He also talked about on the Titans podcast how he doesn't know his role just yet. I get it. It's early, but it sounds to me like they've expressed more to him than what meets the eye for what, the regular fan might be aware of. So we'll talk more about that coming up next. But also, too, is it really ruled out that the Titans won't bring in another safety to maybe make him think twice at training camp and challenge him? That's let to be seen, but we'll find out in the next 4 weeks, because that's when training camp starts. It's coming up. So we have a lot more just to dive into. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Continuing to take your reaction to Jamal Adams signing a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. But you're listening to 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game.
How different are you than the guy that worked with Denard in New York?
Oh, man. Totally different. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm older now. A lot of things back in the day that I thought was cool is not cool anymore, or whatever the case may be. It's just the growth of life, right? Just going through trials and tribulations. But obviously, just a smarter football player, and obviously seeing 2 different schemes and going through different coaching staffs, just learning different ball and different angles of how everybody coaches in different ways. Not everybody coaches, the exact way, or they have their scheme or whatever it might be. But Denard has always stayed the same. His scheme has always been to fit the players, and that's what makes him special.
Welcome back to 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Hey, The Game Summer Ticket Tour is back. Join our very own Joe Dubin at the Yazoo Brewing Company over at 900 River Bluff in Madison, coming up on Thursday, July 18th from 4 to 6, as he gives away tickets to upcoming events in Nashville, including Def Leppard, Bush, Train, Dierks Bentley, and a whole lot more. Also, get signed up for the grand prize. Those tickets include a Preds home game coming up this year and a Sounds game to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix as well. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/tour. Fellas, continuing the conversation about the Titans defense this upcoming season, but also coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we'll also catch up with Claudio Villalobos, a guy that has covered NSC pretty much since day one.
Yep.
So looking forward to that conversation. What does this team look like now with a new head coach? But more importantly, what are Claudio's views about this team as well? Like I said, been there since the start. So we'll get his thoughts coming up at 10:30. But fellas, sticking to the Jamal Adams and the Titans defense conversation here, how challenging can this Titans team make it for Jamal to ultimately fulfill his potential or the idea of him being a starter? I find that interesting because, it is a 1-year prove it deal, but at the same time, it's easy to look at him and go, if you don't work out, we can move on from you. So we'll find out if he's truly worth it or not. I would say at training camp, don't be surprised if the Titans end up going, this isn't going to work out. And so I do find it intriguing that, even Justin Simmons is still out there. Frazier and I talked about at the break off the air about, hey, do you bring in another safety? Probably not, but could you make it challenging some way for Jamal to be a starter on this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible they'd make another addition. I mean, they have 24 million north of that on according to overthecap.com.
But the cap's fake, remember?
Well, yeah, I mentioned that the other day.
Don't even start.
I was making a joke to Willie. I was like, "Oh, but Willie, what cap? What cap are you talking about?" He's talking about the Bills, how it's caught up to him. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, there is a cap. I'm on the camp of that, but no, just the Titans have a little bit of wiggle room with money, so they could definitely add if they want to. Definitely should, in my opinion. But it just depends on what the price tag will be for some of those extra defensive guys out there in free agency, because it looks like they're looking for more than just a 1-year prove it deal like Jamal Adams. I think that's kind of why they one of the reasons why I think they signed Jamal Adams too is just because of the price and just the amount of years, and you're not really tied to the guy for long term and stuff like that. So, but yeah, as for a challenging spot on the roster, though, to your point, Nick, I think it will be challenging. I mean, according to the contract and the numbers, this is a prove it deal, as we've already reiterated multiple times. Like this is definitely to the point where Jamal Adams has to show what he's worth, and like, is he going to be worth every bit of that small amount of money he signed for? And I mean, that's to be seen, to be heard. Also to the point where you can look at it as an incentive base, like I mentioned before. With that, I would like to see him get at least 13 games. I mean, that's kind of what you need out of him.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a challenging point at training camp, I think there will be some challenges along the way. A lot of these younger guys that are playing in the secondary will definitely challenge him. But will Jamal Adams be a starter? I mean, it's remained to be seen. I mean, as everything in life, you got to earn it. And, sometimes the big veteran names don't really earn it. Sometimes they get cut.
I know.
But we'll see.
It is interesting. Well, there's a few names on free agency, and text us at 615-737-1025. If there's a better free agent or just someone in mind that you would rather have had seen the Titans sign, because I find it intriguing that Quandre Diggs was still out there. Obviously Justin Simmons, that's the other name that was rumored to be, a guy that could find a home at some point in time. I wonder why. And I'm pretty sure whatever Justin Simmons is looking for in terms of money, he's not going to get it, whatever it is that he's wishing for currently, because him and his camp have gone quite some time without having a whole lot of interest.
Right.
So I don't know what they're exactly looking for, in terms of a deal. Is it a multi-year deal? Because, Justin is also 30. He's older. So is he looking for, a 2 or 3 year deal? He probably doesn't want a prove it deal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any inside information on any of these contracts, but as a person that's watched football for long enough, you can kind of guesstimate what these guys are wanting.
Yeah.
Especially for Justin Simmons. I think he probably wants like a 2-3 year deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, when you get up there in age, you kind of want to get as much money as you can. So he can still play at a high level, along with Diggs as well. I think Diggs is looking for like a 2-3 year deal as well, but
probably
it could be more. I don't know. Like I said, it's off of a guesstimation. I mean, that's kind of just off the top of knowledge that I have.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, I think that's kind of what they're looking for, and that's why the Titans got Jamal on a good deal.
Yeah, and I mean, Quandre on his last deal, according to Spot Rack, his average salary was $13 million.
Nobody's paying that.
Yeah, so it's interesting that he got a 3 year deal, $39 million at the time. So that is interesting to see. And also, like we talked about earlier, what are the incentives that perhaps Jamal could hit? That's not out there just yet. So we'll find out. But like I said, if you've got a better idea of a guy that the Titans could have brought in, let us know. Call us, text us, 615-737-1025. But also, too, do we really feel like anybody on this roster is going to challenge him at training camp? Is there anyone that kind of comes to mind for you guys? Connor's already shaking his head, but ultimately guys that are more familiar with this team on defense.
Yeah.
But also too, they may be familiar, but it is a new scheme. So it is a new playbook.
And who's familiar with the new scheme?
Exactly.
Jamal Adams.
Yeah. So
that give him the upper edge. I mean,
who is there to challenge him? Elijah Molden? That's it. That's all I could think of.
Me. Give me a 10-day. I'll try and challenge him. I'll
As
hit the
Robbie
weight room.
would say, tryouts are in the Applebee's parking lot in Hendersonville.
Yeah.
No, he would say the parking lot at Hendersonville High School. Yeah.
I will say
Something like that.
Something like that.
The Applebee's, I'm not saying in Hendersonville, but in Applebee's, I'm getting back to food. D-Max probably like, stop talking about food. I can't help it. The mac and cheese at Applebee's is underrated.
Oh my goodness.
Applebee's is disgusting.
I know, but back in the day when it was good in the early 2000s, like 2002,
Yeah.
the mac and cheese was unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was before your time. I'm sorry.
What a quick Applebee's story. Last time I went to Applebee's, it's since closed. We're at the one I went.
Yeah.
My sister got chicken tenders and there was a hair in it.
Oh,
Yeah,
disgusting.
pass. But when I went, it was phenomenal. So it's the only memory I have. That's all I'm just gonna say.
The only good one.
Yeah, the only good one. I went to Rafferty's a lot as a kid too.
That was good. That was underrated for sure.
Chicken tenders were pretty good over there too.
Yeah.
Honey
agree.
mustard.
Jake Wallman says Ruby Tuesdays.
Oh
yeah, there's not a lot of those around. I think
there's actually one right down the street from here.
No way.
Yeah, you've seen where Zaxby's and the Starbucks is, right? Down the
I
street
don't
from
go
here?
down that way that often.
It's right
but
over
okay.
there. Yeah, there is one close by. There's hardly anybody ever there. so-
Okay, Ruby Tuesday.
but it is there.
You're
Yeah.
probably there after church on Sunday.
It might be.
Maybe.
It might be.
That's where they go?
closing. I don't
Yeah.
know if it is closing or not, but we'll find out. But also, you know,
Sorry, guys. We're on a little food.
Quick
tangent.
segue.
Can't help it.
quick segue. But then again, the Titans are taking a segue. They're taking a huge leap of faith into seeing what a new defensive coordinator could do with this team this year. So how challenging will he make training camp? We all know, like I said a little while ago, this was a really aggressive looking OTA for the defense. And so the offense was clearly outmatched at times too. So,
Oh yeah. And
But-
that's another concern on it for another day.
yeah, that is another concern for sure on the other side of the ball. But we'll find out how challenging it truly is for them to grasp this defense, because that may be something more interesting to talk about is how long does it take for the Titans to ultimately get used to this new scheme? Because I don't think it's going to be too crazy different, but if they are aggressive enough, that might outweigh the fact of, okay, we're still learning it, but you are finishing your plays. So training camp is going to be a huge stomping ground for that in terms of understanding what the Titans' expectation is on defense. Because typically, when you think about it at large, the Titans' defense, and I would say the team overall, they get overlooked in some facets for sure. And obviously, we have huge expectations for Will Levis, the wide receiver core. I would even beg to say we have huge expectations for Tony Pollard this year. But on the other side of the ball, how much of an opportunity are we going to get to see the offense more often this year? Because if the defense is struggling at times, that offense is going to have to keep up, especially with, how many times they're on and off the field. So I don't know how there's going to be too much challenge to answer my earlier question of who's going to challenge, like I would say just challenge Jamal to be at his best version. I think it's more self-motivating than anything else.
100%. I mean, he's talked about a lot in that OTP as well. Like, I mean, we all talked about it. Like, he's got to be big about himself.
Yeah.
And so that you bring that in training camp and everything else, like it'll translate on the field.
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Absolutely. Well, hey, tune into 102.5 The Game tonight as the Nashville Cats take on the Billings Outlaws. Yeah, some playoff arena football, fellas. Pre-game's coming up at 8:30 this evening with kickoff at 9, with coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. Cats coverage is presented by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Coming up next year on 4's Company, we're not talking arena football, as exciting as it may be, but we're going to be catching up with Claudio Villalobos. So
Nashville Total Sports.
yeah, it's going to be a fun conversation. Stay tuned for that. Lots of soccer talk coming up next year on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5 The Game tomorrow for coverage of the Great American Getaway 400. Coverage also available on 102.5 The Game, the app, and at thegamenashville.com. Back here on 4's Company this Saturday morning, talking a little bit NSC with one of Frazier's favorite media members, I guess, from what I've
they're all
gathered.
Favorites,
Yeah,
but,
they're all favorites.
I try to get everybody on up there because they all do a good job.
They do, yeah. And someone around since day one is joining the program now. Pleasure to be joined by Claudio Villalobos. Claudio, how you doing this morning?
I'm just doing fine. Thank you guys for having me here. Nice to talk to both Nicks.
Yeah.
Nickos.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Knicks at Night are here with you this morning. But Claudio, let's talk more about this NSC group that's got a new coach. They've got a tough matchup tonight up there in DC. Just give me your overall impressions of this team the last few weeks. And they're coming off a tough loss recently as well. That was an interesting game to watch.
Yes, it was. I mean, honestly, we being, well, Nick has been there with me most times, and we're always hoping that this would be the night, this would be the day, away or here in Nashville. And it happened, I'm going to go back a little bit to the Cincinnati game where I was there at the stadium, and I was very pleased with the victory. But then they came here and lost to a very sorry New England team. So you never know what to expect, to be honest with you guys. It could be that tonight is that night where Nashville comes back strong in the nation's capital and decides that it's a time to welcome the new coach in a better way. But, it's like being up and down most times, And sometimes during the game, you see the old Nashville SC team that can actually do a lot better. But then all of a sudden within the same game, they just fall down and fall apart and get beat like they did. Letting this team score 4 goals in 11 minutes. That's really bad for a team, any team, but especially Nashville, who is known around the league for the good defensive posture.
Now, Claudia, I got to ask you, with the injuries recently, Randall Leal being one of them, hasn't been available for much time for Nashville this season and last season. What is the status on him possibly maybe returning here soon? And also with Brian Callahan, BJ Callahan, excuse me. I got to get rid of the Brian Callahan part. The BJ Callahan for Nashville. What do you expect from him formation-wise? I was talking with Ben earlier this week about maybe a 4-3-2-1, because that's what he ran when he took over the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, he's a great soccer mind, develops youth talent, but just want to get your thoughts on Randall and an update there, and also what you think Callahan will do on the field.
Well, the last thing we heard from especially from the coach on Ron Bamatali is that Randall is already practicing with the team, and same as Anibal Godoy, and even Lucas McNaughton is already running around, just kind of getting his first legs in shape. So Randall is probably closer from the three of them to come back. I heard somewhere that he might be back for the next home game, this to play some minutes. We'll see what happens. Randall's been a piece that this team is missing for a long time. Unfortunately, injuries have not let him, just come back and give a lot of the stuff he does with the team that no other player can. But, when it comes to BJ, well, I agree with that formation just because that's what we've seen him play at the national team. However, does he have the players to do that, or is he going to have to tweak a little bit? I mean, do you see that this particular team right now in Nashville doing that formation? I'm not so sure. He got the personnel to do that, and that's what been one of my talking points most times. Even though there was, and it's a long story now with Gary Smith, there was a lot of issues there on the team that I don't know if any coach can actually overcome this late in the season to make this team work better. We'll see. Maybe BJ has the magic touch. But I believe that, and we've talked about it in this, Nick, when you look at the teams and games, and the coaches look back at the bench, and they might see a couple of guys that actually can come in and change the outcome of a game. But honestly speaking, you don't get to see that much when you see Nashville. I mean, most of these guys have been in the low this season, and when you look back and say, well, who's coming in? There's really not much help. Not because they're bad players. No, not at all. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far. But it's just the overall shape of most of them when they're in the field.
Now, with that point, and we'll just elaborate a little more on that. You mentioned not a lot of availability for players, on the bench. Who do you think they might go to the transfer market coming up here in the coming days?
Well, that's a discussion that's always been in every branch of the. I'm not sure how much of this is discussing inside within the actually people that can make a decision in the team. We know the fans talk about it. We know we talk about it. We know everybody talks about it. But honestly, we don't see anything happening. We'll see. I for once, and hopefully nobody takes it wrong because that's not what I mean. But it kind of amazes me a little bit, guys, that when you look around in the league, the teams that are really up there, call it Miami, call it Cincinnati, call it the LA teams, call it Real Salt Lake. There are teams that if you see the conformation of these teams, a lot of them have Hispanic players at a great level. Why is Nashville staying away from those Hispanic good players? Not because it matters where they come from. It just matters how they react when they come to the league. And at least in the last 2 or 3 years, if I was not more, these guys coming from Argentina, Uruguay, Venezuela, and some other places in America are actually doing really well in the league. And we don't see them getting anywhere close in Nashville for any reason. I don't know about what you guys think about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point for sure. Claudio Villalobos is with us here on 4's Company here this Saturday morning. So with a new coach coming in and this team still in a playoff spot, I find that interesting just as a fan from the outside looking in, because could this be a team that, they get to the playoffs and they're kind of interesting to watch? Or do you think it's ultimately going to be up to guys like Hani and Sam and maybe even Shaft to really challenge this group to be at their best with a new coach?
I believe so. I believe that the last 3 names that you gave me, maybe adding Hannibal Godoy there, would be the 4 people that can. Well, don't forget, there's still Walker Zimmerman for sure, the biggest voice back in the whole team. Just to get these guys together and say, well, guys, we still have a shot. When you look at the game tonight in Washington, it's kind of out as well. Like you said, that a team like Nashville has never lost to this team, never, in 6 games. It's 4 wins and 2 ties here and there. And even at the Audi Field, Nashville has won one game and tied 2 of them. So the opportunity seems to follow this team around every game. Now, is it the time? Like I said earlier, is it the night where Nashville is going to really get a hold of that opportunity and start doing what they know how to do? And we'll see. Even Hani Mukhtar, who's already an MLS All-Star again, at least has scored once against this team per game. So what about Hani coming back tonight and say, well, this is me again. He's me coming back. I'm going to start by scoring against this team and then start the rebellion, to put it with that word, for this team to actually say, we're going to stay here. We're going to stay at the playoff and then take it from there with the new coach. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, it certainly does. Claudio, one last thought for me before I toss it back over to Frazier. Obviously, last year, this team added Sam Surridge with the hope, and they really did see a lot of fruitful offense once Sam got here. Do you think it's a good idea to bring in a new face with a new coach? Do you think that could really shake up the roster, or should you just keep it as it is?
Well, it would be awesome to think that Nashville can actually do well under BJ Callahan with just what they had. But at least in my opinion, they need somebody else. They need somebody who can actually turn this team around, especially in the middle of the field, where this thing has been lacking for not right now. Since Gary's time, this thing has been lacking a figure there that you could say, well, maybe Nashville has a different style of playing. Maybe. However, if you look around the league, most good teams in the league, most teams that are doing really performing well, have with that particular guy in the middle of the field who's making a difference. And we could say a lot of names. We could go around the league and mention those players. There are many that are actually making a difference. Nashville doesn't have it. It would be nice to see how maybe BJ is the guy who say, well, I need this guy. I need this guy in the middle. I need the guy who manages my team from the middle, who actually makes everybody else play and look well and look better. We're missing this guy. I needed it, and then the team might help him try to find it. And we might see something different. However, I don't know. We're seeing that this is being quite it seems to me weird that when we need the offensive-minded guys in the middle of the field, we either go backwards to get more defenders or get more strikers. Well, great. It's always great to bring good players. However, who's going to make them play? Who's going to make them score? Who's going to make it get passes and balls in front of the goal to actually score and get advantages?
You need that creation piece. You're right, Claudio. You need that creation piece in the middle. I will ask you, Claudio, kind of jump to conclusions a little bit. Let's just say, hypothetically, Nashville does get a midfielder in the transfer window, okay? And, Nashville SC fans, they come into this season with Gary Smith wanting hardware. They were in every single competition possible, wanting some hardware. The Leagues Cup is the last opportunity and also the MLS Cup as well for the league. But, the Leagues Cup being something in the hindsight right here, you could actually get grasp on. Do you think it's a loss of a season if they don't win any hardware this year, even though it's a transitional phase with BJ Callahan?
I think so. I think it is because of the fact that even though they switched coaches, they're still the same players. So, if you were able to actually make the playoff in, let's say, 3 or 4 seasons and actually did play the final in the Leagues Cup, if you don't get anywhere close to that, then there would be exactly what you say. I think it is because what have we missed? Do we have most of the same players are back? It's just that the performance hasn't been there. I used to be one that would say that most times what Gary gave this team was some kind of control in that locker room that actually made guys coming from the bench play well, the same or even better when they stepped on the field. That has been lacking, and that's probably what it takes it and keeps us out in the place we are tonight.
Well, Claudio, it's a lot to look forward to with this team. The boys in gold certainly are a lot different from what they were last year, but so glad to have you on and meet you. I know Frazier has had the pleasure of working with you alongside you for the last few seasons, but great insight. And thank you so much for hopping on 4's Company with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And please remind Nick that he needs to bring the pages for our coffee at the
Yes, yes, I will bring the cookies and bread for the coffee. Yes, I was going to say, I'll see you in a few weeks when we have the coffee up in the press box.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, you too. And look, that was a great conversation to learn more about what this team has been going through as of late. Great insight there with a guy that's been following this team ever since day one. Great idea, Frazier. That was awesome. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah.
Son Danny, pretty cool guy too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, coming up next year on 4's Company, it's time to make some weekend picks. We'll kind of go back to, I guess, why not talk about the new college football game? Because I plan on getting it at some point as well.
Oh yeah,
we'll have our dynasty set up as a show once Jake gets back as well. So
almost a college football video game.
Pony up, let's do it.
I've been
you and Joe Dubin giggling it back there,
chatting it up back here.
Love it,
chopping it up back there with one of Nashville's best. Well, coming up next year on 4's Company, like I said, it's time to make some weekend picks. Gonna throw some action at you guys about the Baltimore Orioles and the Yankees. Who do you think wins that game tonight after a big brawl took place last night? So we'll do that coming up next here on 4's Company, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Welcome back to 4's Company on a Saturday morning here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Bringing us back here with a retro song. We talked about the aux cord the other day.
You know what this song means?
College football,
means
baby.
the Wildcats are coming out of the tunnel, baby.
Yeah, I
every
knew it.
day.
And Connor just let us know he's going to play this coming back for our last segment moving forward.
I dig it.
I don't care. It's a great jam. By the way, before we do our picks, Aaron Wilson has got the details to Jamal Adams' contract. I'd like to share this with you guys.
Go ahead.
So, Titans veteran safety, Jamal Adams, as we've all talked about, he signed a 1-year contract with the Two-Tone Blue. It's worth $1.29 million. So, and the guarantee of it is just over $1 million.
Right.
His signing bonus is about $167,000. His salary is this was already reported and is right. His salary is $1.125 million. Most of this is guaranteed. It's coming in at $985,000 for his guaranteed salary. So there's the details. Not anything too glamorous whatsoever, but we were wondering what that was earlier in the show. So there you go. That was Aaron Wilson with that. He covers the NFL and the Texans for KPR. So, fellas, it's time to make some weekend picks here. And what better way to start than following up with the brawl that happened last night with the Orioles and the Yankees? So, Nick Frazier, who do you think comes out on top after the brawl last night?
I think the brawl is not over. There will be some retaliation tonight as well. I'm going to take the Baltimore Orioles. I think
really?
They'll win by like 4 runs.
Interesting. Okay. I would also be you know what? I'm going to take the Yankees in this one. You know, they were fueled up last night. Obviously, they were the ones that started the brawl. So I could see them finishing the business today. That's just the way I see it personally.
Right.
But give me the Yankees this after. They play in about 4.5 hours, I think is what I saw. So
yep,
they
3:05.
Yep. They play here in just a little bit this afternoon. Connor, do you have a pick in this one?
I do. I'm going to go Orioles. Yankees I think I saw they've been the worst team in the entire Major League Baseball
since like June 18th
or something like that. They're struggling.
Yep.
And the Orioles are on the right. It's a different Orioles team from 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Give me the Orioles. I love Gunnar Henderson to hit homer today.
He is really cool. Now
it's a good pick, actually.
That is,
Gunnar Henderson, because he got hit back in the Bronx.
Yes, he
That's
did.
a good little shout out like that.
So that will be a game to keep eyes on this afternoon. And to go back to Newt's point for some context, if you are a gambler out there and you like gambling on the MLB, the Yankees have won 7 games since June 18th. So there is that as well. That may have changed. I don't know if they've picked up another win in between there or not, but I remember gathering that info for one of my updates this week. So there you go. But our next pick involves a legend in soccer, and it's from the Copa America Championship this weekend. We got Argentina taking on Colombia. Frazier, does Messi continue to add to his resume?
He sure does. This is going to be a game that's probably like 2-1. Might go to extra time.
Does he go to PKs like he did just last time winning out? Because he had to go to PKs and what again? Which one was it?
I believe the World Cup.
Yeah, it was the World Cup.
So and also the Leagues Cup when Nashville.
Yes.
So yeah. But no, I think this goes 1-1 extra time. Extra time meaning penalty kick. Because Copa America they go from 90 minutes and they go directly to penalties. So unlike Euros where they go extra time and then penalties. So I'm gonna go 2-1 Argentina.
Okay, Connor Newt.
I'll go Argentina as well. I would love to. I feel like Messi's career is kind of coming to a close here shortly.
Yeah.
Like last couple of years, I'd love to see him get another Copa America title. I'm with Nick Frazier, 2-1 Argentina.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. I'm going to go with Argentina. I'm going to go 1-0, and I'm going to say Messi gets the lone goal.
Okay.
I think that would be a fun narrative to keep track of in that game. He scores probably late in the game is what I would say. I think they go in the halftime with no score, but it's been really cool to see him finish out his career, obviously, with Inter Miami. We've got the MLS, vibe with this as well. He did really well last year coming over, but then also he's repping his country once again. So does he get it done? I don't think he has that much longer playing professional soccer. So we'll find out what that looks like. Let's do a wild card pick as well this weekend. Is there something that you guys will keep your eyes on this weekend in terms of a pick? I know Frazier usually goes over to the NRL. So.
Yeah, and I am, because it's going to make Connor extremely happy. The Manly Sea Eagles are playing at 1:05 on Sunday morning. So there's your Sunday football. You can still watch it. They're playing the Newcastle Knights. It's a 9-7 matchup in the standings. It'd be something pretty cool to watch. Kind of intrigued to see what the Seagulls do. I mean, the Trebojevic brothers are back at it. Tommy Turbos. He's out there at the winger position, so we'll see if he can end up scoring there. But along with a lot of other guys as well. But Luke Brooks is back, so this should be a fun little game to watch.
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything that stands out to you for one last weekend pick, Connor?
Yeah, in honor of us having Chase Headley on the show earlier, I'm going to go over to the Diamond, and Braves taking on the Padres in Petco Park. I'm going to take the Padres today. Dylan Cease on the mound. He's been kind of struggling a little bit this year, but I think he was, Frazier, correct me if I'm wrong, he was Cy Young runner-up last year, right? Or he was in contention.
In contention, yeah.
Yeah. He's going to get it together eventually, I think. And I think that starts today. Give me the Padres over the Atlanta Braves.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
You not on the Braves?
No.
Okay.
They've been playing better, even better than I thought, without one of their biggest pieces in the lineup.
I mean, yeah, and Spencer Strider as well.
Spencer Strider as well. That was kind of crazy to see them, losing a star pitcher, but they also lost. Who was it that they lost? I'm trying to remember. I just had a brain fart.
Ronald Acuna.
That's right. Yeah, he's injured once again with an ACL. So that's unfortunate. But my last pick, I'm going to go over to the world of golf. I've been on golf for some reason for the last few months, especially after my trip up to Louisville, but it's been fun to watch. I feel like Robbie Stanley making a pick like this.
A little influence.
Yeah, he likes watching golf too. So why not?
It doesn't matter what you think.
Sure. But I'm going to say right now they're playing at the Genesis Scottish Open, and he's been in the lead a couple of different times, and he has one career win, and he's looking for his second, and he's also looking for a top 10 finish. He doesn't have very many, but give me Ludwig Aberg to win the Genesis Scottish Open this
You picked
weekend.
him for the Valhalla. And
Did I really?
Yeah, and Scotty Scheffler ended up winning.
No, he didn't win Valhalla, did he?
No, Scotty Scheffler did not end up winning
No,
Valhalla.
no.
Excuse me. It was on my brain.
Yeah.
He's the next tournament.
Scotty Scheffler was a finalist for Male Athlete of the Year, though, at the ESPYs.
But yeah, you did pick Aberg and for Valhalla.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, there you go. But look, we have a few more minutes, guys, and I know you have been elated to talk about college football and the video game that's coming out.
I have a question to pose to you. So I've committed to Middle Tennessee State University for my first rebuild as the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I'm reconsidering this decision.
Oh, gosh. What's the other school?
Miami, Ohio speaks to me.
Really? Ben Roethlisberger's land.
It speaks to me. And one of the main reasons is I'm doing 2 dynasties. One with the Cats, just cuts, have to, for fun. And then this real career one. I don't know if I want to play with 2 teams with the same color.
Why not go for Marshall or like
Marshall would be really cool.
FAU, FIU,
Miami. I just speaks to me. I like
Miami
the unis.
Ohio.
I like the
Central
arena.
Michigan.
That was on the list.
I think
the Chippewas.
Central Michigan.
Who's the worst rated team in the game, by the way? Isn't it Kennesaw State or something?
Yeah, I'm not interested in rebuilding. Everyone's doing Kennesaw State. I'm not interested.
You know what you could do? Build your own team with Team Builder and then make it.
Newt State.
There you go, Newt State. And you have like a mascot of somebody in a suit. They're just called the Speaker.
The Newt State Speakers.
There you go.
Oh, Newt State.
That's a good one.
Newt State Speakers.
Sounds like you've inspired him.
That's what I'm here for. This is called creativity.
Maybe
hour.
later down the line.
I didn't know you could create your own team.
Oh yeah, back in high school, I used to do that for the high school I went to. I'd create it to the T. Like I'd make sure every single detail was on the jersey.
Wow,
logo, everything. Yeah.
Interesting.
I love that.
So
stuff.
what's the first thing you're doing when you get the game?
Oh, Dynasty.
No, wrong. The first answer is you're going.
Now.
You're
Check
going
the
to play now,
jerseys.
and you're scrolling through all 134 teams.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You have to.
Yeah.
Just to see them.
Just to see
It's
them.
like a christening thing.
Just to know like what's there.
It's like a slow. It's like getting into a pool. You don't jump in, you just slow descent.
I guess.
Is it cold? Is it hot?
Yeah,
exactly.
You got to dip your toe in the water first.
No, I'm with you on that, Connor. I think that's a good way to look at it.
Sure.
I mean,
And then you play 1 or 2 play now games, and then you go right to the dynasty.
Yeah.
I'm getting older, Connor. I know I'm only in my mid-20s, but I don't have enough time to go play.
He doesn't have any time left.
I don't. I just got to get right to the meat and potatoes of it and go to dynasty.
Right to the ponies.
Yep, right to the ponies.
Well, we'll have you covered on what the game looks like next week. We'll react to what everyone's first time playing the game has been like. And
3 o'clock on Monday, baby.
Jake Lyman and I will be on the air Monday filling in for Jared Stillman. So stay tuned for that. But on the station later this afternoon, we are going to have the Yankees and the Orioles. So stay tuned for that here on 102.5 The Game. And hey, Nashville Cats are in a playoff game against Billings. So stay tuned for that. Can they move on? Can they win? We'll find out if they can do that in their first season. Lots to look forward to here on 102.5 The Game. But this has been the latest edition of 4's Company. We got a lot to break down next week. A lot is coming up. Titans training camp is coming up. And look, Jamal Adams, we've hit on him a lot. We'll see what that turns into. We know the details of his contract now. But guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you this Saturday morning. We will keep you covered here on 102.5 The Game all of next week. This has been 4's Company. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
See ya.